YouTube land. Um, I have several interviews coming up, and I will do those as live interviews on Skype or Hangouts, something like that. And they're very, very interesting stories. And I just wanted to let you all know that I get a lot of stories sent to me by email from people who can't interview, whether they don't have Hangouts or they don't have Skype or a laptop with a webcam, something like that. So um, that's sometimes an issue, and sometimes people don't want their face on a TV kind of thing, and um, so I thought I would go through some of these stories because I got a bunch of backlogged stories that are very interesting. And today I was going to go through um, a story from Steve Bledsoe and another story from a guy named Isaiah, and then we'll see how much time that's taken. And Steve's story starts out with a sleep paralysis type thing where I cover all different kinds of mysteries, basically. So it starts out with a sleep paralysis thing, and then it leads into a Bigfoot story that is very interesting. And then the second story is in this guy's house, and it appears to be kind of a Bigfoot Dogman style story, but paranormal like. So anyway, I'm going to read these stories. Now, sometimes the people who send the stories don't type out every little detail of their experience in, well, they type out the details, but they don't spell everything properly or word the sentence structures and things like that. So bear with me as I read some of these stories. And I just don't want to waste the stories, and I think that you all will really like these. And like I said, I have some very interesting stuff coming up that will be live, me interviewing people with some incredible stuff, and I don't want to really give that away. But anyway, the first story is from Steve Bledsoe. I talked to him on the phone. He was very reluctant about sharing at first, but then you'll see as I read here. Pardon the Dollar Tree glasses. I still haven't got my other glasses fixed. Anyway, this story comes from Steve Bledsoe. Hey Brenton, sorry it took so long to write about my experience. I was really nervous about being on your channel when we last talked. But after I spoke with you, I felt a lot better about it. If you want to post anything about my experience, that's okay. Or if not, that's okay too. It might not be as exciting as a lot of the things you hear. I'll try to keep it short. One encounter I had was when I was about 20 years old. My girlfriend and I had moved into a house I had lived in as a child. I never really had any strange things happen living there as an adult until my dad came down for a visit for a few days. The first or second night he was there, I was asleep in the master bedroom when I felt someone crawl onto the bed. So he was asleep in the bedroom and he feels someone crawling up on the bed. I felt one hand, then the other, one knee, and then the other slowly crawling up from the foot of the bed. Before I could react, I felt this thing kind of spread out over the entire bed, and it completely paralyzed me. I was unable to even move my eyes. I felt an awful, ungodly presence in the room. I could feel this thing slowly rolling my girlfriend over. As she was being rolled over, I was able to see her out of the corner of my eye. She was not pushing herself up like a person would who was rolling over, One arm was under my head, the other arm was draped over her stomach. So basically, she's rolling over, but she's not using her arms to do it. She's being rolled. He's saying that she looks to be as if something is rolling her over because she's not using her arms to do it. As it was rolling her over, I suddenly remembered a Sunday school teacher who had told me that she had an encounter with a demonic entity. She told me if I ever had a demonic attack, not to be scared, to have faith, that was protected by that I was protected by the blood of Christ, and to say aloud, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I was unable to speak because I was still paralyzed, but I just said the words in my mind. This thing almost had her turned completely over by this time, but as soon as the word Jesus was formed in my mind, this thing dropped her back onto her stomach and was gone so fast. I was amazed at the speed it had left. It was so fast it could not get away fast enough, almost as if it was sucked out of this reality or something. It was so strange because a person would think they would be frightened after this experience, but I was not. I was left with a perfect sense of peace and safety. I somehow knew it was not only gone, but gone far, far away, and I was safe. I was able to go directly back to sleep after that. That's pretty cool to be able to go to sleep right after that. The other experience I told you about was what I thought might have been a Sasquatch. So anyway, the first experience seemed to be a very scary demonic entity coming crawling up on the bed, and he was able to basically in his mind rebuke it, and the power of it amazed him, and the speed in which it left amazed him, and the peace that he had afterwards amazed him. So thank God for that Sunday school teacher that had told him about that, huh? Okay, and the next story is a Sasquatch story, he believes. I told you a little about it already, but I don't think I ever got to the scariest part. We had rock throwing against the house from time to time, and I told you about the large watchdog being thrown through the window, or it jumped. Either way, it refused to go outside at night. Yeah, he did tell me about this, and he doesn't elaborate about it in the email here too much. But he was noticing that rocks were being thrown at the house from time to time. It would kind of get bad, actually, and the dogs would act up, and or his dog would act up, and then one of the times when the rocks were being thrown at the house, something basically threw his dog through the window into the house. And this dog would not go back outside anymore. So if the dog got scared and jumped through the window, or it got thrown through the window, either way, he's saying that this creature was responsible for that. Very interesting, because I know that the Bigfoot sometimes don't like the dog, so it wouldn't be surprising to me that the thing swipes the dog and throws it right through the window to get rid of the nagging barking or whatever was going on there. And then this dog basically didn't want to go outside. And we talked about that for a little while, and the rock throwing would kind of got bad. Sometimes they'd be outside and the rocks would be landing, and things like that. And that's typical Bigfoot kind of behavior. Okay, the dog refused to go outside at night after that. Anytime I had to walk into town at night. I would be followed from my house down about a quarter mile to the bridge. For some reason, it would never follow me past that bridge. So he's basically walking, and he can hear something, matching his footsteps. And I hear that a lot, that someone will be walking and something will pace right with them. But he's saying it never goes past the bridge for some reason. I wonder why. Maybe it doesn't want to cross the water or something. He said, I always thought it was a ghost. Another time I was walking with my friend and my little brother on the back part of the property. There was a clearing where a gas company had cleared out a path through the woods to lay a pipeline. We were walking down in a clearing when I was hearing a strange vibrating sound, almost like bees buzzing rhythmically. I was kind of caught in a daydream state. I don't know if it was caused by the buzzing sound, but I feel like it was. My friend was ahead of my brother and me. My brother was maybe 4. I was in kind of a euphoric, real relaxed state, and I just kind of snapped out of it and stopped. I just was just about to say, "Do you guys hear that buzzing sound?" Then it roared. So he's in this clearing, and this buzzing hits all of a sudden, and it's doing something to him physically. He feels like it's putting him in kind of some euphoric state, and then he kind of snapping out of it because he's worried about his little brother who's only 4 years old, and the friend too. But and then he stops and asks. He's just about to ask, "Do you hear that buzzing sound?" And then it roars. It instantly put me in a red line, full-on life or death panic. I had grabbed my little brother up under my arm and was running before I even knew what I was doing. I had totally forgot my friend. Anyway, we made it back, but I remember where the roar had came from, right inside the tree line. There was a big pile of sticks and tree limbs, branches all piled up in a teepee formation. And that's very common for Bigfoot stuff. Now this roar, or the buzzing, that's kind of odd, almost like an infrasound. I had seen it here before. He's talking about the branches and stuff piled up, and the teepee formation is a Bigfoot sign of some kind. But always thought it was just a big pile of brush and bulldozers pushed up when they were clearing out the path. But it was the only one along the path. I think if they would have left the brush, there would have been several along the path. Another strange thing is my friend never heard a thing. He had no idea why I ran off and left him in the woods. I did have a .22 rifle slung over my back. I wonder if that's why it roared at me. My little brother heard it, and he still remembers it to this day. I just told myself because there was an exotic. He told himself there was an exotic farm, animal farm, basically out there in the woods somewhere, so that he could deal with thinking about it. And he thought that he maybe heard a lion or a tiger roar. And I tried not to think about it too much. But I never put all these experiences together. Just last year, a classmate told me she saw a big, tall, hairy thing at the bridge on the road I lived on back when she was in high school. That's pretty much it. There are a few more details, but I tried to keep it as short as I could. Thanks for listening, brother, and keep up the great work on your channel. I catch myself checking every day to see what you're gonna post next. It just keeps getting better and better. Now the roaring thing in the encounter that I had with the Hollow Earth, my encounter with the Darrow story, the roaring happened, and it was so loud and terrifying. And he's saying that it scared him so bad he picked his brother up and was running before he knew even what he was doing. He had a gun, didn't even think to shoot. So this roar was something very, very, very terrifying. But the interesting thing is his friend, the other guy, didn't hear it. His brother heard it and he heard it. So that's what makes me think with that buzzing that was hitting him and he was getting some weird kind of euphoric feeling, that there was an infrasound that this thing was throwing at him. And then for some reason it went into a more audible roar that was terrifying after. Maybe it was the contrast between the euphoric buzzing, whatever, to the contrast of the raw scare you to make it that much more terrifying. But it seemed to happen in a unidirectional path and not spread out to where the sound would travel to where his other friend that was up ahead would have heard it. That's very interesting to me. I think it's a pretty cool story. But thank you, Steve Bledsoe. Thank you for sharing your story. It's a very good story, and I had a very good time the evening that we talked about all this. And sounds like to me that you have had a Bigfoot on the property when you were a kid. The rock throwing, and it sounds like to me even the teepee tree structure set up and everything was typical Bigfoot type behavior. And in my opinion, you encountered a Bigfoot. And I believe that it also used infrasound on you too. I've got a bunch of really, really good stories here, but I'm going to go to this one next. And this one here is not spelled well, so I'm going to have a struggle to read it. But hang with me because this is a very good story also. Just hang out with me and listen to these stories. We'll do this. I'll do this more. I'll do a series on all the stories that I don't get to interview people for. And I'll start basically getting this backlog of very interesting stuff. And I categorize them too, where the ones that I think are really good and the ones that are okay, and but I keep them all because for research purposes, I begin to see patterns in all these stories. This guy's name is Isaiah White. As you know, my name is Isaiah White. I am a triplet, born with two love sisters on 8/24/1984, and born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, and still here. Well, as you know, I watched your show about when you were 5, I believe, and how you were talking about the devil trying to take you. Well, my friend, I had an experience just like that around that age, but mine's was a little more of just seeing it. Let me begin. Okay. So he watched the story of mine when I was 5 years old, where the devil with the horn thing, the red being, satyr-looking being, came through the wall and grabbed me, and my sister walks in on it when it was trying to pick me up and take me through the wall. And he says he believes me. Thank you. Appreciate it. I would not lie about something like that. Okay, so he's going to begin here. Um, I can remember it like it was yesterday. I awoke to someone calling my name. I want to pause right here. Vic Cundiff on Dogman Encounters, he had a story here really recent where someone had a being. He heard a woman yelling for help in the woods. He kept hearing this, and it wasn't calling his name, but he kept hearing a woman hollering for help. So this guy runs out there looking around, and he didn't, know what to do other than try to find this woman that needs help. So he ends up going out into the woods and goes down this trail. It's about 6 foot wide, and he kept hearing it on into the woods a little further. Help, help, help. So he goes down the trail a little further, and yelling back, like, where are you at, and then he started getting a weird feeling. He's like, I don't know about this, this is kind of felt like a trap. So he turns around and he's about to go back down the path and get up out of the woods, and there was 6 dogmen standing there was 3 on one side, 3 on the other, about 7 foot tall, 8 foot tall, on each side of the path with red glowing eyes standing there staring at him. The only way for him to get out of there was to go down that path. He didn't know if he could take off through the woods and, get his way out of there or not. I guess it was grown up really bad and what have you. And so he was a Marine. I do not remember that too. He was a Marine, and so he just tried to suck it up and not show fear. And he started praying within himself. I think Our Father in Heaven, that prayer, and walked right between those 6 dogmen straight out and out of the woods, and then took off running. But he was lured into the woods by a sound of someone. So I'm just saying that I think sometimes that these sounds are to lure us, whether it's calling your name or someone calling for help or something like that. So he remembers it like it was yesterday. I woke to someone calling my name. So as a child, I followed to see where it was coming from. And I walked down the hallway, passing all of the rooms until I came to this doorway. It had no door, so I stepped in and seen my sister playing on the bed that was in the corner. It was broad daylight outside because I remember looking out the window and didn't see anything. So as I started to walk over there to play as well, I heard the voice again call my name. And when I looked out of the window for a second time, I seen something huge. And I mean, it was big, standing in the backyard, but it was so close to the house I could only see his torso. And we lived in a 2nd-story house. But the crazy part was that it was hairy like a bear, but the hair was perfectly shaved. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I got scared and ran. I think he doesn't mean shaved. It was like the hair was perfectly kept, combed, and the length and what have you. It wasn't like scraggly or anything like that. And 2nd-story house. He's on the 2nd floor, and all he can see out this window is the torso. That is huge. I mean, that's really, really big. Unless it was standing on something, or I don't know. But anyway, he couldn't believe what he said. I can't believe what I was seeing. I got scared and ran, trying to run back down to my room. I heard another voice calling me, but this time I had to pass my mother's room in order to get back to my room. So I stopped in front of her doorway, and then the attic opened by itself. The entrance of the attic was in my mother's room. So I walked forward towards the attic, and as I was just about to walk in, something stopped me in the reflection of the rays of the sun. So the sun was shining through the window, and something basically messed with the sunlight coming through the window. Uh, Something basically was in the reflection of the sun, and that came through the window into the floor and standing so close to where I can touch the door, but I stood there glazing into the darkness, or gazing into the darkness, that I had never seen until this day. Those long werewolf-like claws came out of it. So, okay, he goes into the room, and because the attic door just opens by itself, and then as he was stepping in there to look a little bit closer, the sun's shining through the window, and all of a sudden he sees something kind of block the sun rays. And when I had talked to him on the phone about this, he said that there was, when he kind of looked up into the attic, there was like another door that opened inside, up in the attic. It was like he seen like another door open, and then he seen this long arm, a werewolf like hand, and he said it had like fingers and stuff like that, and claws like a werewolf. He said it looked like a werewolf hand, and basically the long werewolf like claws came out of it and reached for me. I wasn't scared for some strange reason. That's two stories in a row. But as I stood there trying to see what it was that was in the dark, something happened to where there was another part of the attic that had stairs that went up into another part of the attic. Well, as I stood there, it was like as if someone had opened a door, and this real bright light hit the wall, and then it hit me, giving the strength to run. And I never experienced that ever again until I turned 16. And this happened when that Columbine shooting happened, but that's another story. I'm going to cut this short about right now. And give me a call, and he leaves his number. But anyway, up in that attic, another something else opens, where he sees another set of stairs going up, and something opens at the top of that, and this light shines through, and basically dispels this darkness and this creature, and took the fear away. It sounds like basically that the Lord stepped in, something like that to me. Yeah, the bright light. He kind of talked about it as having like a power to it, and it gave him strength and everything to run, and it hit the wall. It was like, shoom, this light bust forth, dispels this darkness, this werewolf and everything. So anyway, he has a huge creature standing outside the window. If you're on the second floor and you can only see the torso, that's a big creature. Whether that's real or that was a paranormal thing, I mean, who knows? But to have something in the attic, the door slings down and a werewolf hand reaches down, sounds kind of like a Bigfoot Dogman type thing, but has paranormal aspects to it. Very, very strange. Thank you, Isaiah White. And we'll be talking about your other stories at some point. Well, anyway, those are two pretty interesting stories, I think. They're kind of hard to read sometimes because people, when they type up this stuff in a hurry, they don't spell everything correctly. They don't use proper sentence structure and what have you. But when I spoke to them, they were well spoken and very nice and cooperative with me to, So anyway, let me know what you think. Those are pretty cool stories, I think. And I got a lot of those, so I want to do like a series and basically start bringing all these out of the archives and try to group them together in similar categories and like Dogman stuff, Bigfoot stuff, ghost stuff, or sleep paralysis stuff to kind of put them where each episode will have the same type of content. So when I title it and tag it, I can label it something that's similar to flow through the whole thing. Tell me what you think about the 2 stories. Like, subscribe, share, comment. God bless. I'll see you on the next video. Go to Facebook Mysteries to search and contribute to help me bring these videos and get some lighting and stuff like that. Thank you. Bye-bye.